Good evening, friends. Welcome to Shantiniketan Literature Festival's online session on September 14. Today is the sixth day. I'll tell you a little about Shantiniketan Literature Festival. We had the physical meet, as you may be aware of, between August 9 and 11. Some of us were there. Urna, who is our MC, she had attended, Suhair Alka. So it was a very wonderful time over there. And also what we had done is this entire event, the hybrid event, physical as well as the online, we have a theme for the event. And the theme is Rangamati, the Red Earth Dialogue. This is the name of the event. And interestingly, both during the physical meet as well as the online meet, as we are seeing, whatever we have had till now, we have had quite a few people talk about Shantiniketan, which is also one of our focal point other than Tagore. Also because last year on 17th September, 3 days from now, Shantiniketan was given the World Heritage inscription by UNESCO. And for this, Vishwa Bharati and quite a few others in Shantiniketan had to work very hard. And it came after many years, as is almost always the case. So that was good that we have it. So therefore, our program, we are continuing with that theme. And today also with whatever I could see, we have taking forward the Red Earth Dialogue. We will have Malashri and others talking about it here as well. So to begin the program in the Shantiniketan style, as we saw it there, we normally begin with a song. So we have Arundhati Mukherjee. I would request Arundhati to, sing a song for us. And then I'll ask Urna to, invite one of you one at a time and then start the program. Arundhati, over to you. Iti গান শোনাও.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. I'll start with a prayer song of Rabindranath Tagore. In this current situation, it is a very apt song. বরিশ ধরা মাঝে শান্তির বাড়ি বরিশ ধরা মাঝে শান্তির বাড়ি শুষ করে দয়লয়ে আছে দাঁড়াই শুষ করে দয়লয়ে আছে দাঁড়াই ঊর্ধ্ব মুখে নরনারী বরিশ ধরা মাঝে শান্তির বাড়ি না থাকে অন্ধকার না থাকে মোহ পাপ না থাকে শোক পরিতাপ না থাকে অন্ধকার না থাকে মোহ পাপ না থাকে শোক পরিতাপ হৃদয় বিরল হোক প্রাণ সবল হোক বিঘ্ন দাহে অপসারী বরিশ ধারা মাঝে শান্তির বাড়ি বরিশ ধারা মাঝে শান্তির বাড়ি কেন এ হিংসা দেশ কেন এ ছদ্মবেশ কেন এ মানবাভিমান কেন এ হিংসা দেশ কেন এ ছদ্মবেশ কেন এ মানবাভিমান বিতারো বিতারো প্রেম পাষাণ হৃদয়ে, বিতারো বিতারো প্রেম পাষাণ হৃদয়ে, জয় জয় হোক তোমারি, বরিশধারা মাঝে শান্তির বাড়ি, বরিশধারা মাঝে শান্তির বাড়ি।
Chamatkar, sadhu, sadhu. This is again a tradition of Shantiniketan that they don't clap. Tagore did not want the sound of clap. So they say sadhu, sadhu. We are doing that again. So now I'll invite Urna Bose to take the program forward. She is the MC for this evening. Urna, over to you. You may introduce the poets one by one, and we'll have 4 rounds. First is a paper on Tagore. Second is a short poem. Third is book launch. We have 2 book launches, one by Malashri and other by Prakash Nagarajan. And then the last round, again a song. We'll come back to you, Arundhati, with a song as well. So over to you, Urna.
Thank you, Arindam sir. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. You are. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Arundhati. That was really beautiful. What a beautiful way to start the evening. So welcome to a stirring, thought-provoking, stimulating Saturday night online session of the Shantiniketan Literature Festival 2024. Upon analyzing Tagore's body of work and lifetime of contributions, one can't help but think of a fragment of divinity flaunting a deep, impassioned red of the soil, a land that has learned to soak up the gold-burnished sun, breathing down upon its contours, tempered into a tropical steadfastness, even while a raw granularity poetically enmeshes into serpentine trails, resonating with the mystical Baul music, thus making Shantiniketan a veritable empress with her red soil tresses presiding over rural West Bengal. And today, this evening, we are here together to celebrate this all-encompassing, cosmic, monotheistic vision of the unity of humanity of this land, the primal, unquenchable fire, the evocative fuel that stokes our creativity by celebrating the quintessence of Tagore's work and the ethos of Shantiniketan. So without further ado, we will start with our round 1. And we'll begin with the stellar and inspiring Dr. Malashri Lal, our chief guest. Of course, she needs no introduction. However, I'm immensely honored to read this. Dr. Malashri Lal, writer and academic with 21 books, retired as Professor English Department, University of Delhi. Her publications include Tagore and the Feminine and the Goddess Trilogy, co-edited with Namita Gokhale, In Search of Sita, Finding Radha, and Treasures of Lakshmi. Betrayed by Hope, a play on the life of Michael Madhusudhan Dutt, received the Kalinga Fiction Award. Malashri Lal recently published Mandalas of Time, Poems. She is currently the convener, English Advisory Board of the Sahitya Academy. And with that, I'd like to extend a very warm and dazzling welcome to Malashri ma'am, who will be talking today about the interplay between connect and disconnect. Over to you, Malashri ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's indeed a great honor to be here at the Shantiniketan Literature Festival. And I've titled my talk, The Shantiniketan Connect and Disconnect. And as I proceed, I hope why I chose this title will become apparent. So let me begin by saying that if I could claim any kind of an ancestral link, it would be Bhubondanga in Shantiniketan through my father, Mohan Mukherjee, whose uncle or kaka was the famous biographer of Tagore, that's Prabhat Kumar Mukhopadhyay. And we all know that his 4-volume Robindra Giboni led to the foundation of a great deal more research that happened over decades and years. Once I remember I was a school child and Prabhat Babu had visited us in Jaipur, which is where I lived, grew up, and received my education. And there were memorable evenings of conversation with him. Prabhat Babu was very fond of my father, and it was his fond dream and expectation that when my father, a bureaucrat in the Rajasthan government, would retire, he would actually go to Shantiniketan and live there with other members of the family. But my mother was a die-hard urbanite, and she loved, adored Jaipur. And she, of course, would have none of this kind of a transition in our lives. In fact, my mother once was asked about Jaipur, and she said, it's the suburb of heaven. So I grew up with these two different kinds of legacies. One is the direct connect with Shantiniketan through my father and my grandmother, who was quite a Bidushi. And I grew up in a home that was called Shamoli. Now, of course, that's a name that we associated with one of Tagore's homes and is supposed to be the home of the waning years of my life. And my father had, for that reason, given it that name. So when I was growing up in Shamoli, in the daytime hours and many social hours, I would be listening to Rajasthani folk music, wearing a lehenga, hanging around with my local friends. And then the next morning, the music teacher would come, and I had to produce in Bangla perfect pronunciation and song of Ananda Loke and other such Rabindra Songit. So you can imagine the kind of confusion, one may call it, or one may call it integration that came into my growing up years. So, in the book Mandalas of Time that you just referred to, Urna, I have a poem which is titled to Rabindranath Tagore. And I'll read a few lines from that. Among the sands of a desert state, I heard and read your poems, Gurudev, distant yet close, familiar yet alien, while I struggled with my identity, flitting between Rajasthan and Bengal, unable to claim either. But what happened is that I learned to live with this fragmented identity. And although it sometimes troubled me, eventually it became a huge and different literary resource. But while I was struggling with the identity, something interesting happened. And I discovered and read more and researched the background to the famous Shila Devi temple at Ambir and realized that here was, in a way, the parable of my journey and many other journeys between Bengal and Rajasthan. Because Shila Devi was a black stone goddess who had been discovered in Joshur by Raja Man Singh. And she'd come to him in a dream and said, if you take me back from here to your kingdom, I will bring you victory. And Raja Man Singh believed that, picked up the Shila and brought her to Amber, where she was put into a silver encrusted temple. Many of you may have visited this absolutely glorious piece of architecture and religious sacred space in Amber. This was 17th century. And so in Shila Devi, I found a kind of an icon for the transitions that I was struggling with. And then I wrote a poem to Shila Devi, and here it is, just a few lines. Gilded silver doors encase me now with a retinue of priests who determine my hours of shayan, darshan, and bhog. I think of my freedoms in Joshua. In a marshy pit, I lay hidden when Mansingh found me as a black miracle stone. I traveled to golden Rajasthan. Honor, glory, wealth was mine. But what happened to my companions in that marsh? There was the dolorous pit, the raucous frogs, earth-hugging worms? Did they find adoration too? So I left it on a question mark, and many of my readers have said, why do so many of your poems end on question marks? And I said, because I don't have answers. All right. So, although I read the poems quite with ease now, when asked to do so, I'd like to remember and also convey that it's my first book of poems. It's a bit crazy in this stage of my life, the autumn of my life, that Shamoli, in a way, shows up as not a home, but a book as I move into other situations. I had a very checkered career in the sense that 45 years actually of teaching at Delhi University, where Papia mentioned she had met me on one of those crazy academic days. At the same time, for a while and a very critical time in India, the 2001 census, etc., I was the director of women's studies simultaneously. So by day, I was teaching American literature in the classroom. And over weekends, I was campaigning with the NGOs, asking for justice for the girl child and asking for laws and policies in favor of saving the girl child from annihilation. You remember also that this was the time when Rajasthan had been declared as a Bimaru state. And the Bimaru, or the sickness, a lot of it had to do with the disadvantageous condition of the girl child. Now, with all this, there was the Bengali ethos at home. There was Sharat Chandra, but the one thing that I remember from those Bengali lessons at home was Rabindranath's Chitrangada. And it made a lasting impression on me. And I think it colored the rest of my life and all my conscious work with feminism. Most of you probably will follow Bangla, so maybe I should not translate. I don't know. Just 4 lines from Chitrangada. Ami Chitrangada, Ami Rajendra Nondini, Nohi Devi, Nohi Shamanno Nari. যদি পার্শ্বে রাখো মোরে সংকটে সম্পদে সম্মতি দাও যদি কঠিন ব্রতে সহায় হতে পাবে তবে তুমি চিনিতে মোরে. In other words, this is a cry and an insistence upon gender equality, women's dignity, and the partnership between man and woman. And therefore, for me, it became the center of my intellectual thinking. And the opening poem of my book, Mandalas, is a poem called Ardhanarishwar, because that becomes the sculptural and iconic representation of this principle that Tagore was talking about. And there I talked about the Ardhanarishwar, the God who is both woman and man, ubiquitous, limitless, and a reminder of equality. All right, cut to many, many years later. And I boldly decided to write a book on Tagore, calling it Tagore and the Feminine, because the Ministry of Culture somehow invited me to join the national committee that was planning the 150 years of Tagore's birth celebrations. And the tagline there was Tagore Beyond Bengal. So it just suited me fine. And when I started working on my book, I want to just mention one or two things that came as new discoveries to me. And I felt that no matter how much work and intellectual output there has been on Tagore, there is still room for more inquiry. For instance, the critical sensibilities of Tagore were known to be women-centric, but no one had actually shown the presence of the woman divine spiritualism that Gitanjali is filled with. So my chapter there, I demonstrated the spiritual force portrayed in Gitanjali as a feminine face. See, for instance, the example of Song 66. She whoever has remained in the depth of my being. Or turn to Song 87. In desperate hope, I go and search for her. Now, the interesting thing is that in English, you have to have the gender marker. It's not enough to say Tumi and then not know who the Tumi is. But the English Gitanjali is what made him famous. And these aspects of his feminine commitment, I think, were extremely important. Now, so far in this talk, I have chalked out my connectedness. Now, let me chalk my disconnectedness with Shantiniketan and talk of Rajasthan. I'm talking of the 1950s to the 1980s, where I was growing up and living there. What was happening there? A state which was filled with gender hierarchies, a state that believed in separating men and women through the Parda system, where female feticide and female infanticide was a loud whisper. In this kind of a place, there was no value for the education of women. And no matter how much one wanted to talk about education, there really was not much credence that was given until Maharani Gayatri Devi came in, and I was very fortunate to study in the school that she set up. Remember, she studied at Patho Bhavan. She spoke fluent Bangla. My parents and I got to know her well. And it was that progressive thinking of Shantiniketan and Rabindranath that she brought to bear on the conservative society of Rajasthan and opened the school in 1943 so that Rajput women from royal families would see another world and learn to stand on their own feet. So, this kind of a connection between Rajasthan and Bengal, I discovered in many other instances, and Abanindranath's Raj Kahini is another obvious one. Shotyadit Rai's Shonar Kella is yet one more. So, the disconnect that I felt from Shantiniketan, and that's to me not a negative word at all, I put into a poem called Shamoli, where I'll read a few words. Tagore's shadow speckles the walls of this home named for him. Today, I rebel and tug at a divided loyalty. The feudal heritage of my childhood fights off the reformist Bengali lineage. My troubled feminism struggling between Poshak and Parda, white than and patriotism. Can one push these ghosts aside? I don't have an answer. But the troubled feminism continued into a search for Indian origins of feminism because the Western models that we were teaching in a post colonial condition but in a colonial syllabus was all wrong. Virginia Woolf, Mary Wollstonecraft don't work for me and did not work for my students. But when I went into mythology and talked about Sita, Radha, Lakshmi, not in the conventional way, but as we did in our book, talking about the strength of Sita, talking about the unconditional romanticism of Radha, talking about the wandering goddess Lakshmi, who would get out of her home and go looking for the genuine devotee and find it in the women. These are the stories that I wanted to tell. And yet, sometimes society goes back and regresses. I remember the time when the story of Rani Padmini of Chittor is very well known. But she committed Johar, and Johar is different from Sati. Johar is mass immolation. And when the film Padmavat was made, there was mayhem and violence because people protested against the so called misrepresentation of history. Now, in my mind, there were questions that arose because of my Rajasthan lineage. I said, can you really judge the past with present day values? This is a state where child marriage was accepted. On Akha Tej, I remember seeing 2-year-old children married. You cannot question the past. Sati and Jauhar they were considered deities figures. So how can you impose today's values on yesterday? And I just will read the last 4 lines of that poem that I wrote on Rani Padmini of Chittor, where again I end with the question. Today, Padmini's sacrifice is frowned upon as wrong. I ask you if you can rewrite values the past held strong. So I'm concluding now. Let me say that I have gained from the paradox of being connected as well as disconnected from Shantiniketan's legacy. Bengal and Rajasthan may appear different, but there is such a multiplicity of beauty, of contrasts and comparisons. And I've learned to love both, and I've revered the humaneness at the roots of both these cultures. So I end with Rabindranath's soulful words that I'm quoting. When I stand before thee at the day's end, thou shalt see my scars and know that I had my wounds and also my healing. Thank you.
Wonderful, Malashri, for the erudite talk that you gave us. And one line that you spoke during the talk, Tagore Beyond Borders, is exactly what I had in mind, and you're echoing the same. It's absolutely universe's plan. And even in Shantiniketan, amongst the participants, we had people from all over the country. They were from Tamil Nadu, they were from Kerala, from Bangalore, from Telangana, Andhra Pradesh. You see, we had representations from almost all these states, as well as from Punjab and Himachal, Bombay, Urna, Menka, they were there. We had somebody from Pune. You see, we had somebody from a few from my city, and so on and so forth. So yes, and you see, we had an informal kind of a tie-up with Vishwabharati because it doesn't have a VC. We could not go into a formal tie-up. And some of the professors and learned scholars who had come, they acknowledged and they told me both privately and publicly that they were really impressed that the kind of people we got together under Shantiniketan Literature Festival's banner was indeed commendable. So thank you once again. Over to you, Urna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Malashri ma'am. What a gripping, riveting talk. I was just like, I just got so swept up with everything that you were saying. And you brought out the contradictions and the commonalities of the cultures and, of someone who has to grapple with all of this so beautifully. Also, a big thank you for talking about your poem, Ardhanarishwar, because today we are in a world of toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. And yet we come from a culture, especially the Eastern cultures, we understand divine masculinity and divine femininity and the amalgamation of these two identities. So thank you so much. That was amazing and just amazing. I just don't have words. And I think we are all very happy to have you start off our evening today. Thank you so much, Mandashri ma'am.
Thank you, Urna.
Yeah. And with that, I'd like to move to our next guest of honor, Anu Mazumdar. Anu is an author, poet, and choreographer. Her books include Refugees from Paradise, The God Enchanter, Auroville, A City for the Future, and The Infinity, Adventures for Children. Her poetry has been anthologized, part of choreography and art installations, and she was the poetry columnist for Arts Illustrated. She has been published in Scroll.in, The Hindu, The Wire, and is the coordinator of the Auroville Literature Festival. She lives and works in Auroville, and I have been blessed enough to see how much of love she pours into everything she does. And with that, over to you, Anu, but she will be presenting a paper about two giant contemporaries, Tagore and Aurobindo. And we can't wait to listen to you, Anu. Anu?
Thank you, Urna, for that
Yeah.
lovely introduction. But first of all, I would really like to thank Shantiniketan Literature Festival. It was such a magic, draw that as soon as you hear that, you want to participate. So I'm very grateful that you have initiated it. And thank you, Arindam Roy, very much for this invitation and for the whole work you have put into that. Equally, I'm honored to be on this panel with Dr. Malashri Lal. Lovely to meet you here. Okay, so as the topic is a brief glimpse of two giants. Now, it's very difficult to stuff these two giants within 2,000 words. So the easiest way to do that is to actually just read the paper, which I'll do. Yeah, so you'll have to just bear with me a little bit. So I wanted to see them as contemporaries, how they emerged alongside each other and how they, how that relationship worked. So let's start in 1878, when Rabindranath is 17 years old, and he is sent to England to hopefully complete his education. And the following year, 7-year-old Aurobindo is set sail for England, as his father wanted him to be educated as the best of Englishmen. Now, a year later, Rabindranath returns without completing his education, but with a full knowledge of Western music and many other things, as he traveled not just through England, but around the world through his life. In Bengal, and everything touched him, the rice fields, the rain, the clouds, the bowls, every aspect of human existence and life is there on record in thousands of songs, in plays, in short stories, in novels, they're all there. So largely, Rabindranath was homeschooled because no school satisfied him. And this was his own unique path of learning, which led to the founding of Shantiniketan. Aurobindo Ghosh, on the other hand, completed all his studies with the highest of distinctions and ended with a tripos at Cambridge. He sailed through his ICS exams exactly as his father wanted him to do, but he decided to skip his writing test. The situation in India had by then started to concern him after all these years of absence. So he opted to return to India and take up a position under the Maharaja of Baroda. And these years became years of re-education. And it is said that he would receive trunkloads of books. He started learning Bengali, he started learning Sanskrit, he would get books on literature, history, philosophy. He studied Vedas and Upanishads in the original at that time. And there was this growing question, which became imperative, is that with the wealth of so much knowledge and the power of that knowledge, why was India still not free? And that led him to get involved in it was still a very burgeoning freedom movement, and he started writing for that movement. So then their paths, Tagore and Aurobindo's, their paths would finally cross in Calcutta. So Aurobindo Ghosh gave up his position as the Vice Chancellor of the Baroda University to become the first principal of the Bengal National University, which is now Jadavpur. It was actually a fascinating moment of history, with so much was happening. It was a time of daring. It was a time of experiment, of camaraderie between great souls. And they were all aimed at the highest things for a nation that was trying to be born. Aurobindo invited Tagore to come and teach at the university, and he agreed, and he did give some classes. There was also people like Ananda Kumar Swami and others. But then, together with Bipin Pal, he started the newspaper called Vande Mataram. And this paper was a call for the complete independence from the British Empire. So his articles, if you read them now, they were funny, they were very sharp, they were scathing, they were very contemporary, and he was soon called the most dangerous man in India. And he was charged for sedition. But luckily, the first round, he got released after a day. Tagore at that point was in Bolpur. And when he heard, he rushed to Calcutta. And the two of them met with very brotherly warmth and a lot of exchange and banter, and they spent the whole afternoon together. And it was at that time that Rabindranath wrote a poem dedicated to Aurobindo called Namaskar. And this, I'll just read one or two lines. It is, O Aurobindo, Rabindranath bows to thee. O friend, my country's friend. O voice incarnate, free of India's soul. Aurobindo, Rabindrer, Laho Namaskar. He Bundhu, He Desha Bundhu, Swadesh Attar, Banimurti Tumi. So they were great souls. And they were together, each in his own way, charting the freedom of a nation, each in his own distinct way, becoming the genius, becoming the inspiration, becoming the creative beauty and power which would lead the country to freedom and towards its future. Meanwhile, Aurobindo Ghosh was imprisoned for a second time. He was incarcerated at the Alipur jail for 1 year. This became a time of profound transformation, an inner transformation. And it started his transformation from Kolkata to Pondicherry and to becoming Sri Aurobindo. In 1913, at the age of 52, Tagore won the Nobel Prize for Literature for Gitanjali. And subsequently, in 1915, he was knighted. So this followed a period of travel to Europe, America, Chile, Argentina, China. And he was a veritable ambassador for a nation that was struggling to be born. But the Jallianwala Bagh massacre of 1918 would leave him very deeply shaken. And at this point, he returned his knighthood with a public statement to the Queen. And like so many, like Gitanjali, which you read, Manushree, has so many aspects. And that brings out another one, which is very famous with a greater resonance, which is where the mind is without fear and the head held high, where knowledge is free. Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So at the same time, in Pondicherry, Sri Aurobindo was preparing another path of this freedom through consciousness, which would have the power to change life and grow. Because the question before him was now, what would happen to the country when it is free? With what power would it act and how would it grow? So from 1914 to 1920, he laid down all his major works in a monthly journal called the Arya. And these included The Life Divine, The Synthesis of Yoga, The Secret of the Vedas, The Future Poetry, is a treatise on poetry, and also his social and political writings, which were in the human cycle and in the ideal of human unity. By 1926, Sri Aurobindo would withdraw completely and refuse to meet people, including Gandhi. But when a letter arrived in 1928 from Tagore requesting to meet, he agreed. But they met in silence. What transpired between them was recorded later by Tagore on his return. And he said, for a long time, I had a strong desire to meet Aurobindo. It has just been fulfilled. At the very first sight, I could realize that he had been seeking for the soul and had gained it. And through this long process of realization, had accumulated within him a silent power of inspiration. His face was radiant with an inner light. I felt the utterance of the ancient rishis speaking from him, of that equanimity which gives the human soul its freedom and entrance to the all. And I said to him, you have the word, and we are waiting to accept it from you. India will speak through your voice to the world. Years ago, I had seen Aurobindo in the atmosphere of his earlier heroic youth, and I sang to him, Aurobindo, accept the salutations of Rabindranath. Today, I saw in him a deeper atmosphere of a reticent richness of wisdom, and again I sang to him, but this time in silence. So they differed in many ways also, and were occasionally critical of each other. Tagore would sometimes question why he was still in Pondicherry when he should have been active, fully active in the independence movement. But yet there was always a natural affinity between them, which they both recognized. Both were great poets, they were seer poets, each plumbing a greater depth for the revelatory word and for the rhythmic and incantatory sound, which is prophetic almost. Now, Sri Aurobindo wrote that Tagore has been a wayfarer towards the same goal as ours in his own way. In the future poetry, he would write, his work is a constant music of the overpassing of boundaries, a chant-filled realm which indicates the incantatory search, the mystic side of it, in which the subtle sounds and lights of the truth of the spirit give new meaning to the finer subtleties of life. He refers to another poem in which he describes it as the poignant sweetness and passion and the spiritual depth and mystery of a poem like this. Its haunting cadences and subtlety is not a matter of technique. It comes from the soul. Sri Aurobindo too was above all a poet and a universal voice that we see in his epic Savitri. It is his cosmic masterpiece which grapples with world forces, with death, with ignorance, with love and consciousness in the vast tournament of our lives. A new consciousness, I mean, this is at the core of this poem, is that a new consciousness would have to be brought down into life, and nothing less would be able to change or help the struggling earth and humanity. And his lead character, of course, is a woman. And the interesting part is her father, Ashwapati, makes this long yajna to have sons. Obviously, in those days, 100 sons. But after huge tapasya, he is granted a boon with which he's granted a daughter. And this is how the daughter is announced. O strong forerunner, I have heard thy cry. One shall descend and break the iron law, change nature's doom by the lone spirit's power, and fate shall be changed by an unchanging will. So these are promises that only belong to the territory of seers. And the freedom that they have seen and bestowed on the spirit of this earth is for us to treasure. So I leave you with a parting line from Gurudev, and I think no one can contest that. He says, when I go from hence, let this be my parting word, that what I have seen is unsurpassable. Thank you.
Thanks for the brilliant presentation, Anu. And it's wonderful to know two great literary giants who are contemporaries. Over to you, Urna. Please take it forward.
Thank you, Anu. That was just compelling. And thank you for reading the lines of Namaskar and for telling us about the two divergent paths of these two seers, both undergirded with profound inner transformation, and for mentioning, for talking about inner light, reticence, wisdom, and the power of silence. Silence is such a beautiful language, for friends and for people who are fighting on the same path, but of course, they can take different, their weapons may be different. So thank you so much, Anu. That was really amazing. And with that, we will move into the next paper. Our next guest of honor is Dr. Papia Sengupta. Dr. Papia Sengupta teaches at the Center for Political Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Her research interests lie at the intersection of minorities, gender, higher education, questions of language and building solidarities. Her poems have found home in Borderless, Rick Journal, Cafe de Census, and her 2 books were published by Palgrave Macmillan. She held fellowships at Brown, Edinburgh, Freiburg, Queen's University, Rhodes, and recently was the British Academy International Fellow at Sheffield. Dr. Papya Sengupta is going to talk to us about Tagore's nationalism. And Papya, we are very excited to hear you talk about this because this is a thing that, a topic that everyone, especially Indians, want to know about how nationality was, how our freedom was won. So over to you, Papya.
Thank you so much, Urna. And before I start, I would just like to thank Shanti Niketan Literature Festival and especially Arindam Da for, giving me this platform. And I apologize. I really thought I will be there, for the festival in Shanti Niketan, but I had made some earlier commitments. And before I talk on, Tagore's nationalism, I would just like to, give a very, very, 2 minutes about, I have been born in Delhi. My mother is, also born in Delhi. And my father came to Delhi just the year of independence, that is 1947. He was born in 1944. And in my house, we had this that you had to speak Bangla. And although we were going to an English medium school, because that was the kind, I think, English being the prestige language, but at home, it was more about Bangla. And I actually, questioned my dad that how did Tagore won the Nobel Prize? And, and he said, but, there is an English book, so read, because I did not know how to read Bangla. So I read that, the Gitanjali, a very, very old, in fact, I think it was like, it was my dadu's, Gitanjali, and I read it, and I was like, no, these doesn't really, go for a, Nobel Prize. How could he? And that made me actually learn Bangla because then I started, for 2 years, I learned Bangla at home and read Tagore in Bangla. And why I'm saying this is because, I also came to know that my great-grandfather, Jyotindranath Sengupta, was writing at the time of Tagore, and he was a contemporary, but he was not writing, the poetries of Tagore, but he was very narcissist and, he was writing different things. And I found this tattered monograph only after my dad died, nearly 20 years back. And that is how I came to know more about Kolkata and, Tagore. And the first time I visited Shanti Niketan was only in 2012. Now, why I, the connect, I think my connect with Tagore is more about the freedom, because, boundless freedom. And so I'm just going to read a couple of lines, which are the trigger for me to, I started reading Tagore from 2017 onwards, more about nationalism. So this is my book, and this was the inspiration behind the book because I'm teaching in JNU, and you know how much it has been in news. So I'll just read a couple of lines, and then I'll start with my paper. Going through the reports of mob lynching in the newspaper, which have heightened in the recent past, I felt a chill run down my spine, as if someone was holding me tightly and tying a rope on my neck. I was feeling breathless and unwell when my mother, seeing me like this, asked if I was all right. Her voice made me conscious that that is me along with my students and colleagues, were consciously and unconsciously experiencing something very similar. We were throttled for speaking our minds, threatened due to our participation in open debates and discussions, pushed to the margins of our collective patience. But who died? No, not us, not yet. Then why this feeling of being murdered? Because it is the university getting lynched, not just a place of work, but for many of us, our place of worshipping the freedoms which the past generations fought and died for. The freedom of speech and expression, to debate and dissent, argue with dignity and composure, respecting diversities, creating a mental and physical space to understand discrimination, creeping from the difference, and the strong belief that academic spaces must be fenceless playgrounds of ideas. A space that seems like providing oxygen for our soul, aspiring towards greater knowledge about human life, a continuing process of learning through self-analysis. Hope the space remains vibrant and inclusive to diverse languages, ideas, and provide the ground for interactions of differences. So this was, what made me start thinking about nationalism and Tagore. And what made me also, read more and more was because I was seeing, these very binary vision about Tagore's nationalism. One talking about that he is very anti the imperialist vision, and he is very anti the modernist Western vision of nationalism, and his is a vision of an Indianized or Indian tradition vision of nationalism. But for me, I think Tagore, one, I agree, and I believe that you cannot just read some or just his 1917 nationalism book and make up your mind about what Tagore thought of nationalism, because it's an ongoing, evolving Tagore and his ideas on nationalism. So I'll just I think it's more about, and this is what I have been writing and working for some time, that Tagore is an evolving Tagore even after he is not with us in his physique. So, but how does it happen? So Tagore's nationalism is a philosophy of humanist universalism. And as what is this humanistic universalism? It is not just a dialectic between anti-imperialism and nationalism. And he in fact infused Indian philosophical and theological traditions, but at the same time also brought in. So he was, influenced by the Western sciences and Western modernity on nationalism. But his was that, the Indianness, and I'm not talking about the Indianness, in the present, political dimension one talks about. But these Indian philosophical and theological traditions were not the exclusive sources for Tagore's nationalism. He was influenced also by the Westernist conception of nationalism. And I believe that if you keep on reading not just his nationalism, which of course has an English translation, and that is why, people like Ashish Nundi and, Shobha or even E.M. Thompson have written a lot about nationalism of Tagore. But I think it's more about Atmashakti. I think that's how I would take Tagore's nationalism as self-empowerment and a connect with the Samaj and with being an individual, but being a part of the Samaj. So for Tagore, the nationalism was not a state-centered thinking. It was more about, the socialist or, the social kind or, the societal at the core, where the Samaj is at the core. While he distinguished that, in between, between the European or the Western conception of nationalism, and he said that, the West conception is very much about a nation state, where in India, it is more about the Samaj or the societal and the social cooperation vis-a-vis the economic competition that actually had the genesis in the Western conception of nationalism. In fact, in Kalantar, which was published in 1933, he did have a lot of respect, and he writes that he respected Enlightenment, but not its transition to colonialism and imperialism. In Bharatbarsher Itihash, which was written in 1902, he had actually coined this term, unity. India is a unity amidst differences, which also finds its resonance in the Constitution of India, where we keep on celebrating unity in diversity. And he believed that India is a multiple, it's one sentence which defines India in that sense is the multiplicity, the diverseness, the diversity. Yet he was very critical of this exclusive system, which we called, the caste system. And he believed that, even those people in the national movement, and he had his differences with Gandhi, which are one is very, one knows about it, but he also had his differences with the nationalism of the Brahmins. And he said that this is a system of barriers. It has imprisoned. So Bengal and the Brahmins are the Brahmanism of, the country has imprisoned, it has been imprisoned in the caste system. And that is why we cannot realize, a kind of borderless, boundaryless, India, which he felt was a syncretic vision of the country. So I don't my reading of Tagore's nationalism and his other books is not just a mere political connotation of what a nation is. It is about the people and the interconnectedness between and among the people, as well as between and among, if we can call it, a nation. And here I would just like to, I'm not going to take much time. I think one needs to also read his work like Gora, Adhyay, Ghore Baire, where he talks about nationalism and the dangers of hypermasculine aggression and hypersexuality. And he uses the word that these are the dis-ease. So he is at a dis-ease when nationalism becomes hypersexual and hypermasculine, or hyperfeminine for that matter. So there is this, individual aspect of connecting to the nation. And in fact, when we talk about India as a nation, even in the present situation, and or coming from 1947, when we talk about the post-independent, I think Tagore would not have been very happy with the term post, or or what the post-colonialist and the subalterns have been talking about, post-colonial India. For Tagore, nationalism is, that is what I got, is a passion without compassion. And compassion is more important than the passion for the nation. So breaking this binary between us and them, the self and the other, I think Tagore's work, and as I was saying that, the 1917, that these three works, Gora, Char Adhyay, and Ghore Baire, he also talks about an individuality and an individual in society. I believe that Tagore's nationalism was more about building of a community rather than an allegiance to a nation state. It was, what I would call was like, he also did not believe and agreed with, Bhasha Bichhed. So this conception of the linguistic understanding of nationalism was also something Tagore was not very much in favor of. And that's why I believe that when we read Tagore now, one cannot just talk about the majoritarian nationalism, or just put him in one box. I think Tagore actually spills all those boxes. He cannot be put on into one box. And that's why I have, in fact, this paper name is Tagore as an Evolving Figure. And the interpretative, ideal, even after he has gone for the 80 years, uh, some of the things which I really feel that Tagore has brought in was, as Malashri was talking, nationalism, not just, in my own ways, as performance, not performance of the nation state, but bringing in, aspects of dance, of music, of bringing people together. So that, I think, that syncretic hybrid kinesthetic, which subverts both a Eurocentric modern vision of nationalism as well as a very canonized Indian classical understanding of nationalism. So you cannot actually put Tagore in one of these, or this binary. In fact, he is one person, I think, who always would ask and who aspired not to be put into these binaries, which we are becoming, that are you a national or an anti-national, as if nothing is there in between, and every individual has their own way of seeking or being a part. And I think that is so I don't really have a paper to read or anything like that, but these are my thoughts, and I've been just trying to grapple, and just in my classes talking to students, that you cannot put Tagore the way, like even a lot of books have talked about that, he is the Indian tradition of nationalism. I really don't know whether, you can talk about one Indian tradition of nationalism. So yes, he is still an evolutionary figure who wants to break, and, as I call him, completely borderless, boundaryless, and, individualistic way of understanding the nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Papia, for the brilliant presentation. Tagore is ever evolving, such a wonderful way of putting it, and it's absolutely new to us also. In the meanwhile, we have one message from Gayatri, such as soul-stirring session. Yes, Gayatri, agree, it is. Over to you, Urna. Please carry it forward.
Thank you, Papia. That was beautiful. And we so agree with you. Nationalism as a fluid, evolving, syncretic identity, that is what it is. And I personally completely agree with your idea of Tagore wanting to build a community. Because in Gitanjali poem 35, when Tagore spoke of a heaven of freedom, it was not just his dream of the Indian nation still yet to be born, but for a universalist nation comprising the entire world within the verdant folds of Shantiniketan. And Shantiniketan, the idea itself, was a kind of internationalism way ahead of its time. Because you see students and you see professors from all over the world, you see languages which were not taught in India then being taught in Shantiniketan. And so thank you so much for bringing all of that into light. That was just amazing. And with that, we'll move into, we'll introduce our next guest of honor, Arundhati Mukherjee, who also sang for us right at the beginning of the session. Arundhati Mukherjee is an engineer by profession and published author, blogger, poet, and singer by passion. She is the Deputy General Manager in Government Power Sector. She loves writing on science and spirituality. She writes in the speakingtree.in, is an author in e-magazines like Pragyata, Thrive Global, and Sivana East. She is a published author with Kindle Direct Publishing, Amazon. And her ebooks are available in Amazon, and her poetry books, her ebooks, and her paperback is also available in various other platforms. And with that, we'd like to listen to Arundhati's paper, which is something I think which we'll all enjoy, Arundhati, which is Timeless Wisdom. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Urna. I would like to thank Arindam for inviting me here and giving me a platform with so scholarly ladies here. And I'm very much honored and feel blessed to be a part of this Shantiniketan Literature Festival. Now I'll not waste time. I want to listen to all. So I'll just go to my topic, Tagore and Universalism. A part of it is Timeless Wisdom of Tagore. One similarity I find in the speakers I heard before, that I am also a Probashi Bangali. I am basically from a small town in Jharkhand, Dhanbad. But we celebrated Rabindra Jayanti, and from my childhood days, singing, dancing to the songs of Tagore, and also reciting. So let's move to the Timeless Wisdom. I'll present my paper here. The vast expanse of universe, the diversity of culture, religion, the political and geographical demarcations, and amongst this cacophony, something connect all in a golden harmony. Such is the working of the human soul, which kindles the sacred fire, which unites us all. And my work is also in uniting this. I'm basically an engineer, but I find the connection between science and spirituality, and literature and science, which balances us. So the lost wisdom of our Vedic rishis to be relevant in today's materialistic world was a far long lost dream until a rishi was born to become the trailblazer of new thoughts, amalgamating the concepts that were age old, yet new, to chart a pathway, the road not taken, and illuminate and enlighten mankind for years to come. Can we reflect on the connections between the vast expanse of the universe and the intricate workings of the human soul? Yes, none other than Rabindranath Tagore, through his writings and creative flow of mellifluous songs, poetry, plays, short stories, essays, made human beings globally rethink their priorities, rethink the value of human life. Rabindranath Tagore, a luminary of Indian philosophy and literature, through his life and works, delved into such profound questions, seeking a unity behind the world's dazzling diversity. He provided a unique perspective, blending the modern humanistic ideal with profound essence of ancient scriptures of Vedic times. Now let's delve into his profound. One minute. Now let's delve into his profound ocean of thoughts and pick up the pearls of wisdom by embarking on the journey to unravel the marvel of his creation. His life was a canvas of cultural renaissance that painted the ethos of his time. Brought up in a family deeply rooted in art, culture, and spirituality, laid the groundwork for his later philosophical inquiries. Tagore grew up in a milieu where religious and literary thoughts from the East and West intermingled freely. Tagore was a polymath whose repertoire stretched from poetry, music, and painting to education and social reform. Tagore's thoughts were a confluence of not only the Upanishads, but the myriads of ideas he encountered in his day-to-day life, his travels in India as well as foreign lands. The influence of Upanishads on him was profound, as we find in his musings on the Brahman, the ultimate reality, and the Atma, the soul, resonating with his monistic theistic stance. Tagore's belief system that a creative force, an infinite spirit, is pervading the cosmos and human consciousness shaped his views on life, art, and education, emphasizing the spiritual and moral dimensions of human existence. In his words, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. He celebrated life in myriads of forms in harmony with the nature, the environment, and the social interconnectedness around him. This conceptualized the creation of Bharati, which was of the vision for a holistic education in harmony within the lap of nature. He advocated for a harmonious existence that transcended boundaries of nation, race, which was of the one thing he advocated for a harmonious existence that transcended boundaries of nation, race, and religion. And here we find his universalism. His works, his poetry, and songs often reflect a deep connection with nature and a reverence for life's simple joys. He perceived beauty in seemingly insignificant objects of nature and simple human beings around him, be it a postmaster, a kabuliwala, a boatman, or a simple dark country lass. কালো সে তো কালো দেখেছি তার কালো হরিণ চোখ. So he perceived the infinite in the finite and felt the larger force encapsulated and hidden in our heart all the time, for which we search and pound the doors of temple, mosque, and church. His efforts towards social reform and rural upliftment reflects his humanistic philosophy, which was not just an abstract idea, but a call to action. His humanistic principles his humanistic principles were an embodiment of his vision of a free and educated society, unshackled by oppressive norms and practices. Where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake, is his words. Tagore's songs were influenced, rather inspired by the West, especially England, Ireland, Scotland. Tagore, in his unique style, reinvented a magical lyric and rhythm inspired by the tunes of Irish Scottish folk songs, to which he gave his own words and expressed with his own individuality. Thus, he was open to all culture, be it baul songs or folks of East Bengal, a boatman song or folks of Western world, or Indian classical music of rags of various seasons and reasons and emotions. His perception of beauty hidden in all the culture and assimilation of this essence made his creation more alluring and having lasting impressions in the mind of people for centuries to come. Thus, we see he embraced and amalgamated the diversity of culture in his creative art forms. Tagore's vision was that art and aesthetic was an integral part of a life. We find in the writing on Kala Bhavan, the Institute of Art, the following. Our notion of culture is limited within the boundary lines of grammar and the laboratory. We almost completely ignore the aesthetic life of man, leaving it uncultivated, allowing weeds to grow there. But where are our arts, which, like the outbreak of spring flowers, are the spontaneous overflow of our deeper nature and spiritual significance and magnificence? In the center of Indian culture, which I am proposing, music and art must have their prominent seats of honor and not be given merely a tolerant nod of recognition. So we find that he recognized that science is more of is there for our advancement. We are progressing, but if we don't have this aesthetic value, this sense of music and art in our life ingrained, then we are not a human. Thus, we see that the timeless wisdom that Tagore has effused through his myriad shades of thoughts, flowing as poetry, songs, and works of rich literary extravaganza, is a valuable asset for many generations and is relevant for all times. The interconnectedness of human and nature was long ago advocated by Tagore, which we are realizing when the menace of climate change is knocking at our doors. The concept of environmental social governance that is globally gaining grounds in corporate and business was long ago conceptualized by Tagore in his culture and functioning of Shantiniketan and Vishwabharati University. Thus, he was modern in thinking, drawing his source from the roots of Indian Vedic culture. His timeless wisdom encapsulated in the song Mahabhishe Mahakashe. Among the infinite worlds of the infinite universes, imbibed in infinite time, I, the finite human, wonder with curious eyes of wonder. You, the architect of the timeless, hide in this ever fascinating cosmos, like an elusive secret. Through pathways of infinite space-time into enlightened worlds, you seek me as I tirelessly seek you. As all discord fades into silence, all chaos quells, only harmony stretches over the horizons. You emerge as the whole, and I its part, distinct yet limitless, bound yet fearless. Thank you.
Thank you, Arundhati. A beautiful presentation.
Thank you so much.
You brought many aspects of Tagore, art, music, culture, his personal self. Over to you, Una.
Thank you, Arundhati. That was an evocative presentation. Obviously, you are a wonderful singer, and you also spoke about the influence of Irish and Scottish folk songs on Tagore's work and the profound amalgamation of the Upanishads and his blending and assimilation of modern humanistic ideals with ancient Vedic wisdom. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thanks.
And with that, we will move into our poet, next poet, Prakash Nagarajan. Prakashji is there, right?
Easier.
Okay.
Just
Prakash?
a minute.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, Prakash's comment is here, wonderfully presented in response to Arundhati's paper. So sorry for the interruption. Urna, over to you.
Prakash Nagarajan is a well-known author and a popular poet of international repute. He has been awarded the Kairat Dusanov Medal for Poetic Excellence in 2021 by the World Nations Writers Union and is a recipient of the Bharat Ratna Rabindranath Tagore Award for 2023, awarded by the Indo-Universe Voices of Poetry, an international literary organization, for his unstinting contribution towards literature. Prakashji will be talking about what we all are. I think anyone who writes poetry and loves poetry and reads poetry is somewhere sensitive, deep within. And Prakashji will be talking about his paper, A Sensitive Soul. So over to you, Prakashji.
Prakash, are you here? There was a bit of a problem. He got disconnected. He came back again. Is he here? I don't see him. No, I don't see him. Urna,
Yeah.
I think we can go ahead and we can ask him to join. Maybe he
Okay.
has got disconnected again. He has just told me that he was here. But in the meanwhile, we have a comment from Papia Shengupto. Wonderful session. I agree with you. So we can go on to the next person, and we'll of course include Prakash if and when he is here.
All right. So what we can do is we can introduce Sucheta Sen Ghosh
That's
Roy, and we
right.
can start the poetry round, and then we can have Prakashji back whenever, you know.
That's right.
So we'll move to the next round, our poetry round, and I'd like to start with Sucheta Sen Ghosh Roy, who has been, waiting very patiently. Thank you so much for your patience. Sucheta Sen Ghosh Roy, English Honours from North Bengal University, also has a Bachelor of Education from Oxford College of Education. She has been a part of several books, including Rendezvous of Words, Mixed Fare with Dr. Jarnail Singh Anand, Paradise on Earth Volume 2 with Stefan Bowden, Soul Dance by Gitanjali Dilip, Avantika Vijay and Pooja Mehta, and has taught English in quite a few schools earlier on. And she will be, reciting her poem, Memoirs of Chantaniketan. So over to you, Sucheta Sen Ghosh Roy.
Good evening. Thank you so much for making me part of this event, Chantaniketan Literature Festival. I'm elated to be here tonight. And my poem, which I have written, is on Chantaniketan. When I had last visited this summer, I was so inspired by Chantaniketan and its works and paintings and Tagore's works and plays. And of course, I always love his songs and all his wonderful works. And today I'm going to read out or recite one of my poems written on Chantaniketan, Memoirs of Chantaniketan. Long-awaited visit, much anticipated, from Kolkata to Chantaniketan, a 5 hours of journey, and excitement, thrilling and spine-inspiring. We entered the land of literature to find an awe-inspiring bliss, the old houses of the legends, some known and acknowledged for their works. The house of Tagore and Amartya Sen give much inspiration. Tagore's ashram is a peace abode, a heritage site in preservation. The beautiful trees planted by him, giving a sheltering longevity, the paintings, poems, the writings, and songs which I much cherish. How I long to be here, the quietude engulfed in rich profusion, the inviting cool submission, energizing the vibrant emotions. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the lovely poem, Sujata. This is
Thank
in
you so
keeping
much,
with
Arindamda.
our theme, Reader Dialogue. And over to you, Urna.
Thank you, Sucheta. Awe-inspiring is the word for Chantaniketan, truly. And your poem was very beautiful. And with that, we'll go back to our original sequencing. So I would like to invite Malashri ma'am to read her poem, Song of the Forest, for us, please.
Thank you. All of you have made me so nostalgic for Shantiniketan. Especially when Orindam mentioned the Rangamati, it just came back with overwhelming emotion to me that I hadn't been there for a while, and I'm definitely going in the next couple of months. So this is a short poem called The Song of the Forest, which talks about the Shonajuri forest and the Moyurakhi river. Shantiniketan's music flows through the Shonajuri trees, oblivious to the rickshaw horns and the chatter of a Saturday market. Simple acacias named by Gurudev in harmony with his abode of peace. The golden petals float down in season and rest lovingly on the red earth, whispering, always whispering, the secret of ancient melodies. The Moyuraki River joins the next stanza of the song, remembering the peacock tails it was named for, its 1,000 eyes now gazing at the scattered gold and wondering if the syllables were right in the sequence of creation. The Moner Manush offered no easy answer. Beautiful.
Excellent
beautiful.
poem. And we have another comment, this time from, just a minute. Yes, it's a wonderful session, says Urundhati. I think I could see Prakash. Prakash, are you here? Can we have your audio?
Yes.
Urna, we could call
Yes.
Prakash.
Am I audible?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
sir.
audible. Yeah, you could invite Prakash now to present
Yes.
the paper, then
Am
you
I
can
audible?
continue. Yes, you are. Just a
Yes,
minute.
Okay.
In fact, Urna had already introduced you when we had lost you, so you can start with the paper right away. Prakash.
Okay. To begin with, good evening to everybody. I am honored to be among such august company.
Excuse me,
My
Prakash. Your
sincere
voice is
thanks
breaking.
to
Just a minute.
Social
Prakash.
Director Animita Roy,
Prakash
Dr.
ji.
Mala Srishlal,
Prakash ji,
and
your
all
voice is
others.
breaking. Prakash, your voice is breaking.
Yeah.
Can you
Am I audible now?
put off your
Yeah.
Bluetooth or something if you have it on?
Am I audible?
No, you are audible, but your voice is breaking. Can you put off your Bluetooth
Okay.
if the connection is on and then come back? Just
No,
for a
the
second.
Bluetooth is not on.
Achha, theek hai, okay. Maybe your connection is wrong. So you could do one thing. You could put off your video and just keep your audio on.
Okay. Okay. Am I audible now?
Even before, but please continue.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. May pranam to everybody. Okay. Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore needs no introduction. But who exactly was he? A social scientist? Yes. Was he an artist? Yes. Was he a writer? A poet? Yes. Was he a musician? Yes. Was he a teacher? Yes. So the answer is yes to all of the above questions. But he was something more than all of the above. He was a child at heart, a child that lives within all of us, in spirit that embodies innocence, freedom, curiosity, innate goodness, and of love that transcends narrow barriers. He was a humanist at heart, who had deep understanding of human nature, of its aspirations and dreams, fallibility. And this one quality made him sensitive and empathetic to the people around him and towards the world at large. Undiminished throughout his life, getting mirrored in his thoughts, writings, paintings, and songs, reflecting in his actions and very behavior. He was deeply involved in the affairs of mankind, yet had preserved within him the detachment of a saint. It made him unique, and it is what that made him extraordinary. These rare human qualities of his childlike innocence, tenderness, his innate humanness, made him globally loved and revered figure who continues to inspire still as a beacon of light. Today, in a world that is becoming increasingly reckless and materialistic, sadly diverse from noble human emotions. Gurudev's songs and writings inspire our hopes and dreams of a better world, continuing to light our lamps, illuminating our hearts from within. Be it the child Amal from his play The Post Office, or Labanya from his novel Shashir Kavita, the last poem, gives evidence of his fine sensibility and breathtaking depth of feelings. Want to exclaim, Ferryman, take me to that other shore of our river. I will just share a poem of his to highlight the delicious sensitivity woven within it. This poem was written by Gurudev in the year 1913. The title of the poem was Paper Boats. I will just read that poem. Day by day, I float my paper boats one by one down the running stream. In big black letters, I write my name on them and the name of the village where I live. I hope that someone in some strange land will find them and know who I am. I load my little boats with showy flowers from our garden and hope that these blooms of the dawn will be carried safely to land in the night. I launch my paper boats and look up into the sky and see the little clouds setting their white bulging sails. I know not what playmate of mine in the sky sends them down there to race with my boats. When night comes, I bury my face in my arm and dream that my paper boats will float on and on under the midnight stars. The fairies of sleep are sailing in them, and the leading is in their basket full of dreams. So this was the poem written by Gurudev, and he talked about universal love. He talked about innocence, and that it reflected his inner character, his nature, and probably that had a global resonance. And today the world badly needs that. But today, where people are getting more and more individualistic, people are getting more materialistic, where there is a people generally tend to veer more towards their selfish interests. Tagore still all of us, and to focus our life, or rather model our life after him. And all his paintings, poems, or writings, or whatever the manner in which he could express, he has he has lived his life, which stands as a model for all of us. So that is what I wanted to bring out in my paper, and that is the reason I had titled it as A Sensitive Soul.
Thank you, Prakash.
And
thank you, Prakash. We have
Yeah.
3 comments here in the meanwhile. Beautiful poetry by Arundhati Mukherjee. Yes, I agree with you. Treasuring the beautiful time at Shantiniketan. Thank you, Arindam. She thanks me, Alka Balin. Alka, it was not only me who made it possible. It was all of you put together. It was a collective effort. And thanks for all the lovely time that we had there. Sudipta Mishra, she will be joining us tomorrow, but she's here as an audience. So she writes, she's from Puri. The first round is really enlightening. It unraveled so many untold stories. I'm blessed here. Thank you again. And okay, now Alka Balan also thanks Anumita and Arunima. Yes, of course. Urna, we'll ask Prakash to read his poem because his connection is not good, and in
Okay,
case
sure.
we lose him, so at
Yes,
least
yes,
let's have
yes.
his poem and then we can go on with the round. So Prakash, can we have you back? Read your poem quickly and then we'll continue with the program. Thank you, Prakash.
You want me to read my poem?
Yes.
Yes, because your connection
Hello,
is
you
not
want me to read
good
my
and we are losing you, so we can have your poem right away.
Sure, I will do that. Okay. Hello.
Do you
Yes,
have your poem
please,
ready?
please.
Yeah, please continue.
Yeah. The title of my
Read one poem. Your voice is cracking. Please start again. Prakash, let's wait for some time. We'll come back to you.
Ceremony.
Hello, Prakash. Let's discontinue.
Yeah.
We'll go back.
The
Maybe
child
meanwhile-
wedding. Yeah, child wedding.
Hang on,
That is the title
Prakash.
of my
Prakash,
poem.
can
The ceremony
you
was
stop?
on
Prakash,
overseen
can you hear
by
me?
priest and village hanger-ons of a marriage and soon to be performed.
Prakash, we can't understand a word of your poem.
Okay.
Can we stop it now?
Yeah.
Come back to you later. And Urna, can you please take it from here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Prakashji will come back to you soon. Maybe you can just log out and log in again. Sometimes it really helps. And just check your Wi-Fi. So yes, with that, and Malashri ma'am, thank you so much for your song of the forest. You pretty much brought alive Shantiniketan, the rickshaw horns, the chatter of a Saturday market, the Moiraki River, and that was really beautiful. I think we all want to go back to Shantiniketan again.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll move into the next poet, Anu. Please, we are looking forward to hearing your poem. Learning to Speak. I think it was published in the Punch magazine.
Yeah, it's a recent poem.
Yeah.
And like I was wondering how to describe it. Is it a nature poem? What is it? And I was thinking of Gurudev. You touch anything and he's there. And he's touched the whole of the world, the whole of existence, nature, all of that. And whatever was happening in the world would concern him. So I think this one is a mix of certain things. So I'll just read that. So it's called Learning to Speak. Don't tell me with words what you can speak with your heart. Don't say with your heart what your soul can resound. Through this great wide world, now just an open wound, where every disaster-loaded mind carries missiles of self-destruction. Speak to me then with mountains, where rivers run with the sun, where wheat fields are turning golden, where children can play without guns, where each hatred is cured, every bitterness silenced with love, till your great seeing eyes enter mine with the symphony of the earth.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Fabulous poem.
Beautiful. Symphony of the Earth. Truly. Tagore's poetry, fiction, novels, songs, everything was a symphony. Thank you so much for that, Anu. And next we'll move to Papya Sengupta, Dr. Papya Sengupta. Papya has a beautiful poem, Aparibhashit, the Undefined. Over to you, Papya.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think, this poem, I wrote it a year back and it was published, and I'll just, go directly to it. So it was that time, when I was thinking about borderlessness. It's written in Hindi and I'll read it in Hindi only. नाम क्या है पूछते हो तो बताओ तुम्हें कि क्या हूं मैं, कभी खुशी का फव्वारा तो कभी गम की बौछार हूं मैं, ना पूरी पतझड़ और ना ही बसंत की बहार हूं मैं, हंसी और दर्द के बीच का एहसास हूं मैं, जब ना ही सुबह खिली हो ना ही रात पूरी ढली हो, उस भोर से पहले का आभास हूं मैं, हर शहर हर पहर हर गांव को तो दे दिया है नाम तुमने, अब मुझ पर करते हो सवाल कि कौन हूं मैं, नहीं बांट सकते हो दो हिस्सों में वो आसमान हूं मैं शीतल पवन, मैं झुझलाती अगन, युद्ध के बीच मौत का अमन, न नाम न कौम न रहती हूं मौन, लफ्जों के बीच की शांत हूं मैं. Thank you.
Beautiful.
बहुत खूब. Urna.
Bahut khoob, Papya. That was really beautiful. Truly, Tagore is the sky. And we'll move next to, just a minute. We'll move next to Arundhati Mukherjee for her poem. Arundhati, over to you for Raindrops. Bring us some rain.
Yeah. So beautiful feelings and emotions and all in this Shantiniketan Literature Festival online. These are really drops of rain. And let me recite my poem, Raindrops. As we know that Tagore is ingrained in the heart and consciousness of all the Bengalis, wherever they are throughout the world, and even in many parts of the world and all throughout India. So here goes my poem, Raindrops. It's monsoon time, the hills and sky rejoice in the symphony of drizzling rain so nigh. The peacock cries in joy surmise, the quail coos to embrace the hues of blooms of gulmohar, the roses and lilies. My mind floats in the dark cloud and pine as I see them fly across the sky, dark somber clouds as they remind me of the golden boat which Tagore float in his mind's sky. As I embrace each season and find a reason to rejoice and dissolve in the infinite consciousness where humanity meet in oneness, as Tagore is ingrained in the depths of my existence. My life and soul is impregnated with thoughts of love divine, as I find in the firmament high or in the birdies that chirp and in sunrise, in the fields and river, in the farmers and boatman, I discover the divine in my mind's eye. When a bud blossoms, when a blood blooms, when the quail coos, when in the verdant field the dark lass pass by, when the sea embraces the moonlit night sky, I discover the beauty of love divine. Tagore's thoughts have colored my mind. As to the divine, I offer my life and surrender. When I meet closed path, or when red oleanders paint my path, I carve creative path with grace from above. I embrace the home and world. In universalism, I find my realism. My mind rests where East meets West, as the global village is my home. I unite in diversity of culture and harmonize as I nurture. As drops of rain in the window pane, sounds of music in my mind, it reverberates and rejuvenates as I dissolve in the drops and find myself in the vast oneness. Thank you.
Lovely poem. Thank you. Urna, please
Yes,
carry
thank
forward.
you, thank you, Arundhati. Truly, Tagore is not only the sky, the sea, and truly there is a song for every season. There is a song for every human emotion, for the seasonality of the human heart as well. Thank you so much. And with that, sir, would you like to ask Prakash ji to read his poem, or should we move into the book launches? Arindam sir, you're on mute.
Hello.
Sir, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm so sorry. I didn't forgot to unmute. Yeah, we can go to the book launch of Malashri, and in the meanwhile, I'm sure Prakash's audio would be all right. So,
Hello.
and we can come back. We can come back to Prakash later. We can have the book launch and the poem together with Prakash and end it with a song of Arundhati, and that will be the end of the program.
All right, so we get into the next round, which is, so we have two book launches, Mandalas of Time, poems by Dr. Madhurshi Lal, and this was published by Hawakal Publishers 2023. And at this point in time, I have to say that, the poet Anne Sexton wrote, "Love and a cuff cannot be concealed." And I have to say that I can't conceal my love for one of Malashri ma'am's poems called lilies in an empty home. And there's a line there, Malashri ma'am, which I just love, which is, I think, the second last or the last line. Buried bulbs know they will creep upwards in season. Thank you so much for that beautiful line. And Malashri ma'am, please talk to us about your book, Mandalas of Time, and then we can open up the house for questions.
Yeah, Manashri, you could speak for about 5 minutes or so about the book, and then we can have a quick question answer session. And I'll hold up the book she had sent me. So I have a copy of it.
I have a copy too. Thank you very much, Arindam. Thank you, Shantiniketan Literature Festival, and all the speakers and our host for giving me this opportunity to present Mandalas of Time in a formal way. In my home that I consider my ancestral link, the mandalas in a way brings my life full circle. With all the fragmentations that the book has captured, it has strung it together like a bunch of Navratna pearls or Navratna beads. There is one string that runs through it all, and that's my small, insignificant story. So when mandalas came together, it was initially not even planned as a book. It was just bits and scraps of writing that I tucked here and there. And during the pandemic, something happened to many of us because the idea of mortality came too close for comfort. And there was also a lot of time. And I found all this and then put it together and showed it to one or two friends. And they said, "Hey, you have a book here." And I said, "I can't even see a pattern. I cannot see a form." They said, "No need, just put it there." So that's how the book happened. It has had a dream run, which I had never imagined in my wildest moment that anyone would even publish it, leave alone read it and be reviewed so extensively. So I'm utterly grateful. And I'm also using this opportunity to announce that there is a Hindi translation which will be published later in the year. It's been done by many hands. 13 extremely well-known Hindi writers just picked it up and said, "We'll do some translations." So you've brought me good luck, and I'm indeed grateful to be here with you.
Thank you, Malashri. This book is wonderful. I have read quite a bit of it. I couldn't complete it because I was caught up with so many things. You see, because of the background, I think the book cannot be seen properly. But whatever little you can see, it's a very well-produced book. And please thank Kirti and Bitan on our behalf as well. So if anyone wants, it has 75 poems. You see, books, films, ideas, or events like SLF also, they just happen, you know. It's beyond planning, beyond maybe a greater plan. So some of the poems I like, there are a lot of these poems about uh, the, from a mythology, as you had said during your talk. And then you have Diwali and Goddess Lakshmi. So, a lot of the traditions which we see in a religion, in a homes, you have talked over here, and so much to say, but I would ask others to chip in also. Hello.
Now,
Yeah.
I want to ask, where can we get this book? In any platform from where we can buy this book?
It's easily available on Amazon and it's globally available. Luckily, Hawakal Publishers made sure that it was they were country-wise distributors, so it's sold quite well. It's easily
Okay,
available.
thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm very grateful actually that there
I'll
has
be
been
very
so much
happy to read
interest
it.
in the
I'm
book.
eager to read it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Arundhati.
And in a newsroom, I've launched several publications. So, many a times you would say that if you want class and mass, these are the two things which even newspaper people want to reach. We want to have that elite thing of a class. So even with Times of India, I launched quite a few things. So for English, you go to the class, and with Hindi or any vernacular, you go to the mass. So, it would be a perfect mix of class and mass with translation.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, congratulations, Manushree. I really look forward to actually reading it in Hindi, although you've written it originally. And that's why I was also fascinated by Papia's own poem, which was in Hindi. So that, this class and mass, but to see the natural, how to say, movement from this language, sometimes I think of that. We write in English, but where would it land in our own languages, So, of course, English is by now our own language too. So what did you think of it, or did it just come as a thing?
It happened, a strange coincidence. There's a friend of mine who runs a YouTube channel which is very popular. She runs under the name of Katha Nati, and she does dramatized readings in Hindi. So she said, Mala, I want your poems in Hindi. And I said, they don't exist in Hindi. She said, well, get it done. I said, who's going to do it? She said, start off, ask any of your friends, have lots of poet friends. And sure enough, 13 people came together and one of them said, I will edit it. And now that I see the Hindis, I often think it's actually better than the English.
I've had my poems translated in Tamil, which I don't even understand sometimes. But in Hindi, it's yeah, okay. No, nothing. Over to somebody else now.
Yeah. Congratulations, Malashri ma'am. I remember attending the in-person launch at Ethos that Urna had compared. And there was Seema Jain, Professor Seema Jain, who was there. So there is a beautiful poem in your book, as of now in English, about Draupadi that you had read and shared. If you have time, we'll love to hear that.
It isn't Draupadi directly. There are lots of the poems. I'm not sure which one you're talking about because I didn't do a poem on Draupadi, but if there is a minute, I'd like to read about the marginal characters. They interest me. So I did a poem on Manthara, which many people were very surprised because I took a very sympathetic view of Manthara. I saw her as a person who was being very cruelly treated because of her disability, so-called disability, and that she also had maternal feelings towards Kekai, which went unrecognized. And somehow my Manthara is rather different from the usual kind of idea that we have of a so-called hunchbacked evil character. So if there is time, do you have a minute?
Yes,
Can I
yes,
read it?
please.
Yeah,
Yes,
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. Could I close my ears to those barbs? Kubra, hunchback, shame, oh shame, crooked. So I was born, the ugliest of women where beauty is praised, mocked, derided as Cujo, as though I bore a crooked soul. Yet I loved, like a mother. I loved Kekai and desired the best for her. Kingdom, fame, wealth, and love a perennial cornucopia. She found it too, marrying Dashrath. I wanted more for her, the supreme power of Queen Mother. The hunchback's wisdom, observation, acuteness didn't fail me. And Kekai, obedient daughter, asked for her boons, kingdom for Bharat and Ram's exile. Oh, horror. The sublime dream turned into infernal curse. People pelted stones on my back, shouting, Kubra, Kujo. My daughter, she shut her door against me. I slunk into a hovel to save my life, slept among worms and putrid soil, bereft of care and sympathy, hated, reviled for my ugliness. What wrong did I do in protecting my child? Doesn't every mother dream of a princess, a queen?
Wow.
Excellent poem.
That's
Deeply moving.
That's a very different take and from her perspective. Oh,
Yeah, truly humanizing her.
thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Urna, we could call Prakash for his poem and book
Yes.
launch. Prakash, you may put off the video if the audio is still disturbing, and then come on with the audio when the book is launched. You can have it in
Yeah,
quick
but
succession.
am I audible
Prakash,
now?
would you like to read your poem first and then we'll maybe finish off with your book launch?
Yeah.
And please
Okay.
ensure that the poem is not more than 16 lines. It seems to be a very long poem. So try to finish it quickly.
No, it's of 16 lines.
Okay.
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 This poem is about monsoon. This poem I have written because of the suicides which happened in Maharashtra, especially. Many farmers committed suicide because of financial stress, maybe. So, keeping that in mind, I wrote this poem. The
Please go
title
to the
of the
poem
poem is
directly.
Monsoon.
We are losing time. Please go to
Okay,
the
I will
poem
begin my
directly.
poem. Yeah. My well is dry, my fields are parched, a land bleached white, intensely sun-scorched. Not a single cloud seen in the sky, not as far as doth a black crow fly. Against a glaring sun, my eyes I shield. What do I say about crops or yield? A barren land in wait for a till. How thus to carry on, and when until year on year your arrival remains a suspense? How do I meet a school fees or a marriage expense? My family fed up of my moans, but what do they know of my loans? Desperate I pray, my prayers surround you, ardent wishes for cloud cover showers or even dew. You cool my heart, you cool my fields. Your arrival means fertile land yields, swelling wells, overflowing lakes, lush green all around in your wake. Please do hear this farmer's song. I yearn for you, say, so pray do not be long. This is the title of the poem. This is the poem of Monsoon. And this is a part
Thank
of
you,
my...
Prakash. Lovely poem. Now, can you straight go
And
into the book launch?
yeah,
Pick up your
now
book.
this is the book. Yeah, this is my book.
Yeah.
So this is Kavyanjali.
Yeah, he
Okay.
had sent copies of the book to me also. Yeah.
Yes, I have a
Lovely
copy
book.
with me.
Some
Okay.
very nice poems
Now,
are here.
I believe poetry is a truthful expression of what one feels inside. As human beings, our aspirations, dreams, and hopes are the same, irrespective of the differences to our background. Poetry is written not only for enjoyment, pleasure, or entertainment, but goes a long way in building a common bond of goodwill and amity among people. Very many social issues can be portrayed sensitively or highlighted through this lovely medium of poesy. And sensitively done poetry in a most beautiful way can become real eye openers to the several social ills that plague a society. Modern world has become materialistic, hectic, and automated beyond measure, as a result of which people are becoming badly pressed for time and in process have even lost the will to seek pleasure. Such frantic lifestyles have taken a serious toll of their mental and physical well-being. It has become all the more important for present day bards to work in directions that will shape people's priorities to things that should really matter in life in the longer run. So all I say is let us take the time to pause and smell the roses. It's a beautiful world. Let's not forget that we are all tourists here en route. We will never know if we will ever have a life here again. So that is the idea behind writing Kavyanjali.
Excellently explained. Anybody has anything to say?
Prakash, would you like to talk about your publisher, Astitva Prakashan?
Yeah. Astitva Prakashan is based in Chhattisgarh. So they have published this book of mine, that is Kavyanjali. I'm in the process of publishing my second book, that is Different Skies, that is most likely to be launched by the end of this month, and followed by the third book, that is The Moon Worshipper. So that book is also going to come before December. Astitva Prakashan is one of the publishers, but my second book is being published by Authors Click Publications. They too are based in Chhattisgarh. So these are my publishers right now.
Thank you. If nobody has any comment or question, I think we can move to the fourth round and ask Arundhati to end with the song. Urna, you can
Yes, yes, Arundhati, we are waiting for your song. What is an
Okay.
evening? What is an evening dedicated to Tagore and Shantiniketan without a Robindra Sangeet?
And to be very frank, I came from hospital at 7 o'clock. I reached home, and instantly I know I have to join this session.
Oh my God.
So it's a impromptu. I hadn't prepared the songs,
Okay.
but I love to sing.
No, we have
And
heard
it
you
is
before.
really
You are a
a
lovely singer.
beautiful platform that Arindamda has brought us all here with all his efforts, so diverse from diverse fields, and such a nice luminaries of stars here in the night sky. So let me end this beautiful session with this beautiful song of Tagore. মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই চিরদিন কেন পাই না Please excuse me if I am here and there, some flaws are there. মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই চিরদিন কেন পাই না মাঝে মাঝে তব কেন মেঘ আসে হৃদয় আকাশে কেন মেঘ আসে হৃদয় আকাশে তোমারে দেখিতে দেয় না মোহ মেঘে তোমারে দেখিতে দেয় না মোহ মেঘে তোমারে অন্ধ করে রাখে তোমারে দেখিতে দেয় না মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই চিরদিন কেন পাই না মাঝে মাঝে তব ক্ষণিক আলোকে আখির পলকে তোমায় যবে পাই দেখিতে ওহে হারাই হারাই সদা হয় ভয় হারাই হারাই সদা হয় ভয় হারাইয়া ফেলি চকিতে আস না মিটিতে হারাইয়া পলক না পড়িতে হারাইয়া হৃদয় না জোড়াতে হারাইয়া ফেলি চকিতে মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই চিরদিন কেন পাই না মাঝে মাঝে তব কি করিলে বলো পাইব তোমারে রাখিব আখিতে আখিতে ওহে এত প্রেম আমি কোথা পাবো না এত প্রেম আমি কোথা পাবো না তোমারে হৃদয়ে রাখিতে আমার সাধ্য কি বা তোমারে দয়া না করিলে কে পারে তুমি আপনি না এলে কে পারে হৃদয়ে রাখিতে মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই চিরদিন কেন পাই না মাঝে মাঝে তব ওহে আর কারো পানে চাহিব না আর, করিব হে আমি প্রাণপণ। ওহে তুমি যদি বলো এখনি করিব, তুমি যদি বলো এখনি করিব, বিষয় বাসনা বিসর্জন দিব, শ্রীচরণে বিষয় দিব অকাতরে, বিষয় দিব তোমার লাগি, বিষয় বাসনা বিসর্জন। মাঝে মাঝে তব দেখা পাই, চিরদিন কেন পাই না, মাঝে মাঝে তব।
বাহ, চমৎকার।
চমৎকার।
Sadhu, sadhu. You have a very
ধন্যবাদ।
powerful voice and it was beautifully modulated. Thank you so much for that, Arundhati.
Thank
And
you so much. It's a beautiful session. Would love many more and would like to connect with each other also.
Certainly, we should do that. We should do that. Yeah.
I think Alka has a comment, sir.
Yeah.
Would you like to read that out?
Grateful to meet and hear you all. Thank you, Arindam, Orna, and SLF. This was from Anu Majumdar. Wonderfully sung is Prakash Nagarajan, and Alka Balan saying soulful singing. Can't agree with more. That's perfect. So, Urna?
Yes. So before we ask Arindam sir to to kind of deliver the vote of thanks, I'd like to take the opportunity from all of us to thank Arindam sir and the entire team of SLF, because I was there even for the physical meet, and from the very conception, the inception, the ideation of the project, of the festival, to its meticulous, day-to-day programming, the on-ground looking after the poets, taking care of everyone's needs. Alka was there. Alka will also join in, and she'll also agree. It was beautifully done. Everyone felt loved and embraced with the spirit of Tagore. So thank you so much, Arindam sir and the entire team. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Urna, for this wonderful hosting of the evening, for the formal vote of thanks. I begin by thanking Unumita Roy, who's in there. She was caught up with some other work. So she stays in the US, all those who don't know her personally. So she couldn't be here, but of course she will look at the recording, and she's the one who puts it on the YouTube for us. So obviously she'll go through the entire thing. I thank Malashri. She had been very kind, and even during the planning stage and at various levels, she has been a great help. I look forward to her presence in the physical meet in the next year. Anu Majumdar, thank you. We have talked quite a few times, and as I was telling you earlier, wish we had met earlier, then I would have met you at Pondicherry, but I don't stay very far, but maybe sometime we'll look up each other. Papia Sengupta, Dr. Papia Sengupta, excellent presentation and lovely poem. Thank you again. Arundhati, you were the nightingale of the evening. You helped us begin the session with a song, and your paper and your presentation were in place as well. Prakash, thanks to you, despite technical glitches, we managed to finish it, and we could launch your book as well. Suchita Sen Ghoshroy, sorry. Thanks for the lovely poem, and thanks for being a part of the evening. So, and of course, last but not the least, thanks, Urna, for conducting the program so beautifully. So the time has come, then we should say goodbye. It's almost a little over 2 hours. So it was a wonderful session. Thanks, each one of you. I'm looking forward to more such sessions. Thank you. I'll end the recording. So a final round of bye-byes to all of you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.
Meet
Thank
you all
you.
Glad I
soon.
could be
Thank
here.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Excellent session.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
agree with you. Agree with you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so
Thank
much.
you. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Good
thank you
night.
so much.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Okay.
Good
So
night.
I'm ending the session here. Good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
What is wrong?